Hello, this is Sean with Beyond the Visual Spectrum. I'm doing a video here on werewolves and other bipedal canines throughout history. And wolves have instilled fear, or at least a high respect, for centuries in ancient Europe, the Americas, other parts of the world where there was similar type canine animals in Africa, hyenas and jackals and things. But in Japan, as they have foxes over there which were incorporated to these bipedal creatures, but in their myth and stories. These wolves are apex predators hunting packs, and historically have been known to come into villages, and this is accounts in Europe in 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, and even 1800s, and pick off children or women, or even injured men, and as well as pets and livestock, during the winter months. And so villages in the European countries have been historically documented having wolves raid them or even kill and drag off and devour humans. So there is a ingrained fear with wolf lore and legend. But you start talking about werewolves and the different types of werewolves. You have the shapeshifter type that go from a human to a four-legged wolf that tends to be a normal wolf. Then you have a shapeshifter type that goes from a human to a bipedal, muscular, and very large 6, 7, 8 foot tall werewolf, like you would see in a movie, or what people have also connected with is the Dogman look. Then you have a psychotic mental werewolf, which is somebody that psychologically they believe they are a werewolf but still are in human form, and that's a mental issue there. And then you have hypertrichosis, which is known as hair wolf, and that's a disease where someone grows a lot of hair all over their body and they're totally covered in hair, and that is just a disorder. It's a flaw in the DNA. So a natural fear of wolves existed, but a more ancient belief in absorbing animal-like abilities came from tribal practices of wearing the animal skin or the pelt, and especially the wolf or even coyotes, for example. In Scandinavian countries, the Nordic cultures of the Vikings, in literary history, had these ferocious warrior cults which were revered with the highest honor, called they were called berserkers, and they had supposedly enhanced speed and strength, and they could could simulate the characteristics of wolves, sometimes bears, and were almost like indestructible by weapons during this time period. So you have these stories in history, in literary history, about these people. So it's documented. Now, this wasn't just a practice in ancient Norway or Sweden, but in ancient Africa, they had hyenas, and they also had a ritual that was done sometimes with hallucinogenic plants to kind of promote the merging of the hyena spirit and the human to become this were-hyena. So that's also similar to the North American skinwalker in a sense, but the skinwalker was actually shape-shifting into like a were-coyote, and they had some knowledge, really intimate knowledge of frequency barriers around the physical world and how to manipulate energies and spirit energies and direct them in remote view through animals, and transferring their own consciousness and spirit into a coyote or another animal. But there also is a transformation too, a shape-shifting transformation also. But many different factors are involved with that. Now, Japan had werefoxes, which have a werewolf look to it. They're bipedal. So these bipedal creatures are throughout history. These bipedal, werewolf-looking creatures. So, and in Europe, they're pretty much they're especially in Germany, Switzerland, France, Italy, and England. That's where you get all these stories of werewolves, and even the mental psychotic type of werewolf. But you also get the stories about the humans transforming into a wolf, and a few stories that are out there where there's real accounts of a beast, that's bipedal, that's taking villagers. So anyway, I'm gonna move on, and we're gonna talk about the hallucinogenic plants that were usually incorporated in these rituals worldwide to help the shaman or the person going through the psychological transformation from human to a human canine hybridized psychology. So you're tapping into a spirit realm, which was believed to merge. It was also you're connecting this wolf or coyote or canine spirit to your own. Now that was something that was done around the world, and I believe that the berserkers, the Vikings, had some of that going on, which as skinwalkers and the were hyenas in Africa, that practice also. So, and they had some in Central America and Mexico. And those are coyote based too. So yeah, you're tapping the spirit realm for the canine spirit merging. Now, werewolf type gods and deities were also known around the world in ancient times as well. They also had Egypt had Anubis. Anubis was the dog-headed god of death in the underworld, and thousands of miles away in ancient Mexico, the Aztec god of dance, music, and carnality, known as Huehuecoyotl, was depicted as having the head of a coyote and a body of a human. Now, that's not just coincidence. That is, there's a rhyme and a reason behind that. So there's something going on. They revered this bipedal type wolf coyote hybrid human creature. So was it actually a being at the time that was more prevalent or seen by people to be documented that way, being carved in stone or painted on ancient they have walls inside of the pyramids that have these paintings on them, and these hallways and corridors. So there's a reason for it, and that is the mystery behind this. There is a reason. Even ancient cities like Rome, Italy have origin stories that suckle sustenance of a wolf to build the pillars of its foundation, like Romulus and Remus. And you can see them as children. They're nursing off of the breasts of the what do you call them, udders of a wolf. So where does the were and werewolf come from? It's an Old English term. It even has ancient Nordic connections. But I will say that not all the stories were just normal wolves killing villagers, but there's plenty in the middle 1400s through the 1700s and 1800s that describe something large in the darkness, stalking and killing livestock, pets, and humans. And reports in Switzerland, France, Germany, and England of strange-looking large wolves, and sometimes seen as bipedal as they carried off their kill into the nighttime woods. So, have people worldwide gone mad and insane, or have they witnessed something that they shouldn't have? Something otherworldly that shouldn't exist, but does and continues to thrive on the outskirts of society. In reality, as most would assume, through centuries of eyewitness accounts of bipedal beasts of the canine variety that lurk in the dark corners of many continents and in our minds, and in the densest forest, and under the psychological protection of, oh, they don't exist except in fairy tales and Hollywood movies. But why do they keep showing themselves more and more around the world? Whether as dogmen or skinwalkers or werewolves still wearing shredded pants? What are they? Who are they? These intelligent creatures or beings? Are they descendants of fallen angels? Or are they chimeric lab experiments from Babylonian times? Are they connected to other dimensions? Since many hunters, hikers, forest workers, and even park rangers mention their seemingly supernatural ability to cloak themselves with X-Men type powers, or even disappearing, and even the ability to take buckshot to the chest as if it was a pellet gun. This tells me that these creatures may be much more than just earth-based animals, but only time will tell their true cryptid nature. Whether a biological shape-shifting ability due to a unique DNA, or induced by magical incantations or demonic forces, or perhaps many varieties exist, some which stay in a werewolf form, permanently called dogmen, and others which are true shape-shifting werewolves with a more sinister agenda. So, werewolf lore and legends inundated our human history, and with a mysterious and enigmatic vision of terror and mayhem, creating a nightmarish fear of what lurks in the dark, watching us, or perhaps in human form, sitting next to us on a bus, train, or movie theater seat, without us even having the slightest clue what they really are. So if you live near a national forest or a rural area, be safe, be vigilant, keep your doors locked always, get a gun while you still can. But if you encounter these creatures, only shoot these creatures if they absolutely try to harm you or your family. Otherwise, avoid them at all costs. We don't understand them fully yet to know their full intentions and agenda. So we can't put a label on them and hey, we're just going to destroy these creatures, because not all encounters have been hostile, and not all encounters have been malevolently influenced. There have been a few that were neutral. There have been some that were somewhat benevolent. So just keep in mind, you can't lump the whole entire species into a category under one label that would basically describe the characteristics for all of them. Beyond the Visual Spectrum, like and subscribe.